G'day, welcome back to the 40 channel. So, another quick upgrade just before we go on a long drive for a drought. Now, I've got this due for rego in 2 days time and they could pick up. There's a few exhaust leaks coming out of the manifold and they need to be addressed. So we've got a new exhaust gasket. We've got some extractors. So we'll chuck on the extractors while we're going through the whole process. Hopefully, it'll make the whole thing breathe a little bit better. Maybe even give us a little bit more power to the 2F. Anyway, let's get into it. Alright, the first thing I've done is I've just given it all a spray with some R1. Now this is super hot. I've just finished driving for about an hour and I've come back. Then I've decided I need to do this. This is non-flammable, so it's not too much of an issue. You'll get a bit of a smoke happening, but let it start soaking in. First thing we need to do is pull off the airbox, start giving us access to everything. Right, there's 4 bolts on the side. There's 1 bolt directly underneath. Now this is super hot, so remember, don't burn yourself. Take your back breather hose off, undo out of the Carby, you can lift that whole thing up. We'll just give everything a good soak with R1. We might try to crack some of these bolts while it is hot. Sometimes it's a little bit easier. Then we're going to give it a couple hours to let the whole thing cool down so I don't burn myself. To make everything a lot more accessible, we're actually going to pull the Carby off. That way we can access all the bolts to the manifold, so we can take all of that off. Give us a lot more clear access, and it's really only about 10 minutes work to get everything off. So just going to remove those 5 bolts from under and around the Carby on the intake manifold. Some of them are very tight, so I've just been very carefully working them back and forward. I feel that they could break at any minute. Something quite concerning in the intake manifold, I've actually found a fairly decent crack. It looks like they've tried to weld it up from under the bottom at some stage, which means there's a possibility of exhaust gas being sucked up into the Carby and back into our intake. So this will actually hopefully take care of that issue as well once we seal that plate off at the bottom. No more exhaust gases going into our intake. Anyway, I'm going to keep working on these bolts because they don't feel very good at all. Just snap that bolt, but that's okay because it's in the exhaust manifold, which is getting removed and taken away anyway, so I'm not too concerned. This far bolt is by far the hardest to get in and out, but this is where these King Tony speed ratchets come really in handy. You can just get it on the end of the bolt, and although it's tedious, just slowly work that bolt out. The other problem is that one last bolt that I can't get out has actually got a helicoil in it, so oh no, I don't have to. Right, now you can see here and here and here we've got some serious exhaust leak. So we'll take that old gasket off. You can see it all around here, and all at the back of here. It was also leaking out of this exhaust right here as well. So we had quite a number of exhaust leaks going on. Look at the soot build up over the side of the engine block. Righto, have a look at the bolt that we pulled out. There's not really much left of it. It's nearly eaten completely away with rust. So this manifold is very heavy. So the extractors do not weigh as much as this. So that's a good thing, I think. But anyway, that they can get set down there. You can see where they've done this big giant weld repair or aluminium. It's actually not a bad repair for what they've done. It has sealed it all up. It's not leaking up into there anymore. Righto, next thing we need to do is clean up all this gasket residue off both the surface on this and off the block before we fit up our new gasket. Let's clean it all up. We'll do the trick nicely. Spent a fair bit of time cleaning all the surfaces up where the new gaskets are going to go. Then I had to try to figure out how to utilize the old exhaust and marry it in with the new one. So I took it off at a joint just before the muffler, and then with a whole lot of cutting and trimming and more cutting and trimming, being very careful as I went because I didn't want to take too much off or I couldn't go back. I'm finally at a point that'll make it all work. So there we go. So it's just tacked into place at the moment. Now we're going to go back, we're going to weld it all up. What we did was we cut little slots in it, flared it open with a shifter, tapped it in, we'll tap it back with a hammer, then we'll weld it up so it's a nice sleeve fit seal. Let's go weld this up, fit it in the car. This has been the longest process of the whole lot. You're not going to get any extractors. It's just going to fit straight in with your exhaust system because every exhaust system I've seen on a 40 series has been a little bit different because they've rusted out and replaced them over the years. So this one's different to the Ute, and it's different to all the shorties, the way they all run, all very different. And there's different models of extractors. So I've had 3 different models of extractors. This one was the only one that was going to work with the way that the current exhaust was. Anyway, let's get in, put it all together. Right, the first thing I notice about the old gasket compared to the new gasket is that the old gasket finished right at the end there. The new gasket actually has the bolt holes to line up, which means we can put that extra torque pressure on the back of the gasket, hopefully closing it up. Hopefully this one will have a better seal. We'll put our 2 end bolts in, that way we can line it up. Righto, so the extractors and the manifold are on. A bit of a drama there getting them on, but they're all on, so that's okay. I've been working on this spacer block that goes between your Carby and the intake manifold for ages. I've actually found something that's actually beating a ChemTools product. So the gasket on this, well, there's multiple gaskets. There was like that RTV sealant on it. There was so much stuff on it. It's just, it's a mess. So I'm just really working to try to scrape all these gaskets off. I'll make a new gasket, start from fresh, then we can get the Carby on, but it's been a bit of a battle. There's some seriously baked on stuff on this, so I'm using this ChemTools gasket carbon residue remover. Serious stuff, and there's layers of it too, it's crazy. When you've got something that you need to make a gasket for, there's one we've made. Just get some gasket paper, lay it over the top of what you want to make. Just get a hammer, just slowly work around the edge. So tap it and slide it down. That's going to give you a mark now to trace out. We can use the ball point for round. And for the holes, find the hole, which is the ball point again. Now we have something to follow and cut out. And for our holes, which is a hole punch, line up where our marks were. And now we have a gasket for our spacer block. Well, that ended up being a lot bigger effort than I ever thought it was going to be. But anyway, it's done. The biggest jobs were actually cleaning off the old gasket material from all the surfaces, so to have a nice clean surface for the new gaskets to go on. Now, I can't hear any more exhaust leaks anymore, which is fantastic. We'll let that bed in, and in about a couple of days' time we'll come back and we'll recheck and retorque all those bolts, make sure they're all okay. But it's done, it's finished. I got it all done in one day. As you can see, it's quite late now, but it means it'll be back on the road for tomorrow for everything else we need to do. Righto guys, so hopefully that's been a little bit helpful to you guys. There was a lot that I wasn't able to film. There was a lot going on with cutting and shutting the exhaust. I didn't film any of that because every single exhaust system is going to be different and every set of extractors is going to be different. So, for instance, these were the original extractors I was going to put on. I fitted them on, and where this exhaust came out was nowhere near my existing exhaust on here. So I ended up pulling the extractors off the LX. It needs a full overhaul anyway. And cut and shut, welded up the exhaust, plumbed it all up, ready to go. These ones will actually go back on the LX at some stage down the track, and that could be years, but anyway, we'll get there. At the moment, the LX is a parts car for this one, but don't panic. That just means the LX will get all brand new parts when it's restored. It won't be like this, it'll be a restory job. So again, it'll be a long way away. Anyway guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Hope this helped you guys out. Feel free to subscribe and leave a comment, and until next time, take care of yourselves.